Hey, what is up, you guys? This is Fabulous, and I'm here with my first of a series of Crusader Kings 3 games as Ireland. I wanted to do a Ireland tutorial game where you start as the tutorial and basically try to, create Ireland and go from there. So, this is going to be a fairly long campaign. It's going to be very slow for some people who know how to play this game. I'm not familiar with what Crusader Kings has already implemented in previous versions versus this version. This is my first soiree, if you will, into Crusader Kings. I've been a Europa player for a long time and I love it, so I figured it would be good to do a tutorial version for Ireland. So, we will do... Yeah, I tried Tribal Ireland. Let me tell you, the Wrath of the Northmen bullshit, over it. Okay, tutorial. Oh, if I don't have caps locks on. Okay, so we're gonna do a tutorial Ireland save, and we're not even gonna start playing yet. We have a lot of stuff to cover before we even begin. Depending on how quickly I cover it, or if I miss anything, please let me know in the comments. I will go into detail. Basically, this is your main screen. This kind of shows you, most of your important information as far as, your realm versus your council. Ooh, okay. And then these are very important. If you see one of these, normally they're very important. They're kind of like notifications, which I think is exactly what they are. So, basically speaking, click your character, it hovers and highlights the area that you control. Now, if you zoom in, you can actually see if you have vassals, which we do. We have a vassal. So, every character in Crusader Kings 3 has a education that they receive based on the strength and points of the adult who educated them. The more educated the person is, the more knowledgeable, the better the education, the better the child comes out. So, if you look at this character, obviously he is a, martial education. He has +6 to martial and monthly martial experience of +30. If you look at his son, he also is a martial, education. He's not as good as his dad, but, these things happen. And, clicking on different kingdoms, it kind of shows you who has, what. He's not the best vassal. So, theoretically, we could try to educate his son, because if we allow him to keep this land, which 9 times out of 10 we will for now, we want to get a good vassal. He has 14 stewardship, which is not terrible, but if we can increase his son's stewardship, that would help. We also might be able to change his, culture, which would be nice. So, if you click that button, it brings you to this screen. Because of our martial education, we get 30% more experience in this lifestyle. Martial is normally the best way to go for most campaigns if your character is built for it. To me, personally. At least for this campaign. Because you're an underdog, you need to get as strong as possible to push, and try to gobble up as much of Ireland as you can before some bigger power steals it. Diplomacy and stewardship are really good if you have a decent-sized realm or you need to focus inwards. Intrigue, obviously, is really good for committing murders, claiming thrones, getting rid of people in your way, plots, things of that nature. Learning is the one that is kind of an oddball. If you look at it, it's just, It's not terrible, but it's just weird to me. Out of all of them, yeah, you get a health boost, or, you're a scholar. It's not bad. If your character has really good learning, it's not a terrible way to go if you want to learn things quicker, but I've just never been partial to it. I'm sure someone in the comments will probably tell me why it's the best at this or that, but, to each their own. So, It looks like our character already has almost one entire tree, filled out. Normally you'll get, based on the age of the character you start, one of these will be filled out to an extent based on their age and their experience. One thing I will say, which some people, if you're brand new to this game, may not know, is if you want to see, like when I hover over this window, look at the top right corner of the window, do it again, you'll see that little white circle. Once the little white circle has went away, that means you've held it long enough that you can actually hover over this shit. And that's for everything. So, I didn't know that for the longest time, and I had a terrible time trying to figure that out. I couldn't find that anywhere, so please learn from my mistakes and just know that that is the way that you lock the screen so you can look at stuff. Because if you do it before, it, won't let you. So, there's a few different options when it comes to the focus of the lifestyle. You can increase your martial skill in general. You can gain dread or prowess, Now, having extra martial is good. It will give you, prowess. It will give you... Let's just look. Let's see on our character what it actually does. So, if you look, the effects of martial, having a higher martial increases your levy size, your levy reinforcement rate. That's 90% of what it does. Your council will also have a martial, so he will help supplement, your martial skill, and has a few different options. Now, each one of these we'll go over, but so just know that there are other ways besides this to boost your skills. But considering the fact that this is such an early game and that we need to conquer a lot of things, I'm going to go for the prowess. Because I need every advantage humanly possible. I want the strongest knights. I really wish we had this tree filled out first, because that just, to me, makes it much easier. But this is something that we can deal with, because it does increase our combat abilities. The only thing I really wanted was, the King's Guard. Having extra knights is so helpful. Each, knight and commander is worth 200 to 300 levies easy on their own, if not more. But, so we've selected that. The next thing we see is that our heir is unmarried. And you have two different real options when it comes to marriage in this game. You can marriage for traits. You can marriage for, like, let's say, in our case, what we're missing most is our learning and intrigue. If we had a wife that had, actually, even our diplomacy is really terrible too. Yeah, okay, so we have poor everything but martial. So basically, we need all the help we can get. You kind of want a wife to supplement your weaknesses. Intrigue would be good because that would prevent us from dying early from someone and their stupidity. But I also want to get an alliance. I don't want to muddy up my succession with having too many children, but it is what it is. You cannot control it. So the best way to prevent that too is to not have tons and tons and tons of, duchies and all that. But we'll get into all that later. So, you have no spouse yourself, and your son has no spouse. He just hit 18, you're 39. So we're a little up there. So I normally like to see who I can marry with him. Oh, not arranged marriage. Okay, so that's the first thing. I always do this. I'm terrible. Arranged marriage is for characters at your own court, which you never want to do with your player heir normally, or find a spouse. Now, on this menu, there's a lot of options. Now, you could just scroll through here for days. This is showing 912 characters, or you can hit this little button right here to toggle some filters. I tend to do look for certain traits that I want, because here's the thing. We have a son and heir. The sooner he makes children, the sooner that even if he dies, our succession is safe. So I'm not as worried about alliances with him, But the benefit of having an alliance with him would be that when our king dies, we should still have an alliance with another nation. So there's pros and cons to each. So if we go to alliance power, we would see that we have an alliance with the Duchy of Normandy, who, if you don't know history or this game too well, is currently trying to take over England, which he very well may succeed. Now, the second we, arrange a marriage with him, he's going to call us into his war. Okay. So I would like somebody who's a little younger. Just in case he doesn't get his claim, we can just the marriage. So, she's not bad. She's rowdy. Oh, she's going to have martial and intrigue. That's even better. So, we'll do that. We will marry him to her. So, for ourselves, we'll see if we need an alliance. At the very beginning of the game, oh, this is amazing. Yeah, we will gladly marry. Having France as an ally that quickly is amazing. So, okay. So, that's done. With our current situation, we can declare wars, which we'll go over soon. But basically, this episode is going to be a lot of pause. I don't even know if I will get to unpause in this first episode or even the second episode, because I'm going to explain a lot of stuff. And like I said, if you're not new to Crusader Kings 3, this may be slow for you, and you may want to skip to episode 2 and see if I start playing by then. I don't know, because I talk a lot and I ramble, so, I do appreciate the support. Even if you want to listen and, post comments about what I missed or things that I may have, because I am very new to this game. I'm not an expert. I just like to explain things in a way, and most of the tutorials I saw were very, in-depth with graphs and a lot of talking on a lot of different points, and my attention span is way too short for that. I need little snippets about everything as I look at the screen to kind of help me understand it. So, if you look here, we have too few spouses, which you may not understand, because, we're already technically betrothed. But Insular allows you to have 4 spouses. Why any grown man would want 4 spouses, I don't know. But apparently that's a thing. So, we are allowed to declare war on him because we are the petty king of Munster, and he belongs in our kingdom. So, if you look down here, you'll see that these are the realms we have. This is the duchy titles, which we have claim to this title, and he is in our duchy, which is why we can conquer him. So, that will probably be the first thing we do, is to conquer him and make him part of our realm. So, that's, something that you can do. We can also marry off our family members, which we are going to do, but not yet. So, if you look at your monthly income, it tells you what you get from your domain, which is our 2 provinces. Our vassal also gives us money, and our church gives us money for a total. Basically, I'm going to pop this open for a second. If your bishop, which is right here in your council, does not like you, you will not get your church holdings. You cannot replace him unless you kill him. And you can normally not get rid of him unless there's some kind of event or things like that. So you want to try to make him like you. That's kind of a thing. So please just keep that in mind. Your prestige is basically how popular you are, how much your name is known. This is also, how you create laws. In the early game, in the 800s, if you start there, this is also how you would create some of your men-at-arms, which is in your military. Basically, for now, it's tied into every time you call an ally into a war that is offensive, not defensive, it requires prestige. Every time you create a title, it requires prestige. If I were to want to create this title, oh no, it actually gives. Okay, I lied. I could have swore it cost. What costs? Okay. Maybe in the early game. I'm having a moment. So, but I believe the majority of your prestige is what, calling your allies into wars for the most part. So, you want to make sure that you have that. I believe it also costs prestige to declare a war. It's been a hot minute. Yeah, it does. Okay. So, I'm not entirely crazy. So, it does take that. The problem is I've just been playing in the 800s for like the last 10 games, so maybe I should have played a refresher before I got here, but you know, I don't really think a lot. So, going from there, you have our Piety, which basically, for insular Christianity, doesn't do a whole lot. Like, normally, if you're very religious and you're Catholic, you can ask the Pope for money, and if he likes you and you're poor, he'll give you some money. Insular doesn't really have all that, so I tend to like to convert, which, you know, it's not easy to do unless you can have your heir educated by somebody and want them to change their religion, which is an option. But, you know, piety is used for certain wars. Like, if you look here, we're basically the only insular place left in the world for now. Occasionally you'll have the little suckers pop up everywhere. Oh, there's a holy site. Oh, there's a holy site there too. Oh, okay. So that's new. I actually never paid attention to that. So I guess that increases your fervor. So, your renowned is basically like your prestige, but for your entire household. The way it works is the more family members you have in high tiers of a realm. Like, let's say that our daughter was this lady, and she was High Queen of Scotland. That would give us prestige for that. Now, you can have all your children be, you know, dukes and lords in your own realm, and it will not count them. It will only count your highest in your realm. You only get extra renown when you have family members on other thrones and other kingdoms. So, if you have a daughter, besides just getting an alliance with somebody, you want to try to make sure that they can rise up to a very high standing in another kingdom to increase your renown. The reason renown is important is if you open the Legacies here, there's a lot of different things you can unlock, which for some campaigns may be better than others. I'm not going to go into all these. You can look at this if you want. It's very expensive. It's a very rare thing to happen. The first one is pretty easy to get. Second and third, it's going to take a while, unless you play it smart. So, then the next thing is your levies. Your levies are basically your peasants that have pitchforks and sticks. Not the greatest. And then you have your knights. Now, the one thing I will recommend you do, if you look here, it says our son and player heir is terrible at prowess. He sucks. Also, I don't want him to die before we have somebody to replace him, so we're going to forbid him from fighting. Oh, this Felicia. I mean, we have a lot of people in our realm who are not that good at fighting. Oh, they're bad. But, it sucks, but if you look at each knight, a high prowess skill means you're more likely to survive and perform well, both as a knight in battles and in duels. Each point of prowess gives 100 damage. 100 damage. So this guy right here does 1,000 damage. Keep that in mind. So, if you look at your levies, they do 10 damage. 10. The knights will make a huge difference. 10 to 1,000. So you see how much of a difference having really good knights will make. So, not only do you want to keep family members who are not, you know, in line to screw up your succession around, you want them to stay in the family, you want them to be close, and you want them to be breeding. Sounds terrible, but you basically want strong male people to fight. Basically, the higher the prowess they can get, the better traits you can get. That's what you want to focus on. Because once your knights start dying and or being killed off, it gets a hell of a lot harder to play. So, the next part is the men-at-arms. Now, this is the part that we can't afford yet, but these are your second best way to increase your military strength at the beginning of the game. If you look here at the armored footmen, 100 of them gives 38 damage. You know, each one of these will have different effects, pluses and minuses. You know, light footmen. Now, one thing you need to keep in mind, these are good for forts up to level 5. These are good up to forts to level 10. So save yourself some headache and just build these. You know, now the maintenance is like 0.33. Yeah, so it's, you know, it's not a huge boost, but you don't, you know, why would you build something that, you know, very quickly could be no longer useful? The light footmen are probably the cheapest, you know. In our case, we have a lot of swamp lands, so we don't really have to worry too much about the terrains. We definitely don't want horses, that's for damn sure, because they get a wetlands minus on top of the normal minus, so. I mean, I tend to like the armored footmen, maybe one of them, a bowman. You know, we can get 5, so we'll just fill it up, whatever we're feeling. We'll kind of see what our enemy has, because some of these counter each other, you know, so. With that said, though, we've covered... Okay, oh, and the last thing. This is our domain. If you look here, it shows you your holdings, which we have 2 castles, in the Earldom of Thomond and the Earldom of Ennis. We have 2 castles. So, I mean, it shows you only have 2 out of 5. And that's because our vassal controls Ormond. So, you know, theoretically, you may want to have more land to make sure that you're strong enough to control everyone. But having vassals basically also means that your children aren't going to just jump in there and gobble things up. Although I have seen that happen sometimes. So, alright, so that's the end of this episode. I know it was a little long, so please forgive me. Thank you for, you know, sticking with it. I really do appreciate it. I will go over all of these in the next episode, so it looks like we probably won't be unpausing maybe until episode 3. But again, thank you so much. This was fabulous, and I will see you in the next one.